This happened at a ranch called La Lima in San Luis Potosi. So this guy says that when they were really young, they used to go to this ranch with their grandfather to the Sugarcane Farm. This particular morning, the grandfather told them that he couldn't take them with him, and instead he took 2 of his friends. It was a good distance away, so they went ahead and started walking to the Sugarcane Farms. They did a lot of work, and by the time the sun was going down, the grandfather decided, hey, let's stay the night here because tomorrow we would need to continue to do more work, and that's what the plan was. The only issue was that they realized that they didn't take any food to eat for the night. So the grandfather, being that it was his idea to stay the night there, he decided to volunteer himself to walk all the way back home, get some food, and then bring it all the way back to them. He does make it back home, and by this time it's already night, it's dark, and his wife does make some lunches for him and the guys back at the farm. With the food in one hand and the lantern in the other, he starts making his way back to the guys. He also had his dogs with him that he decided to let loose so that they can keep him company. He did get to a point where it was like a little bit of a foresty part, and he does know that there's a lot of animals there, and the dogs did start barking, but they were ahead of him. That little foresty part was only like a small amount that he had to cross to get to where the other guys are, but when he finally made it to where the dogs were in that foresty part of the walk, he said that he started hearing like a horse galloping in his direction. Out of nowhere, the dogs just stopped barking, and he says that everything just stayed very eerily quiet. That's when he noticed that there was a horse coming in his direction, and it had a man on the horse, but he couldn't make out any facial features or anything like that. When the guy on the horse finally got in front of him, he says that for some reason he had the weird feeling that told him do not look at the guy. As he's looking down, the horse is next to him and the guy's on top of the horse. Again, he is not looking up at that guy. He says that the guy says to him, hey friend, where are you going? And that he responded, oh, I'm going to the sugarcane farm. My friends are out there waiting for me to bring them food. The guy on the horse then asked him, do you want to ride? I can take you there. And the grandfather said, no, I'm okay. I'd rather go walking. The guy on the horse was like, come on, let me take you there. It'll be a lot faster. You'll get there in no time. And he, still looking down, not looking at him, was like, no, thank you. I appreciate the offer, but I prefer walking. The man on the horse then said, okay, that's fine. Extended his arm to the grandfather so that they can shake it and then be on their way. And the grandfather says that he did end up shaking his hand. When he shook his hand, he noticed that the hand was very hairy and that the nails were extremely long. So they shook hands. The grandfather went about his way. He heard the horse go back the way he was coming, but he says that after walking for about 5 minutes, he felt the craziest like sensation, like if somebody had thrown a bucket of cold water at his back. And because of that feeling, he kneeled down to the ground and started praying. After praying, he does get back up again, and he said that he did feel a lot better. Crazy thing was that after he got on his knees, prayed, stood up, and felt better, he then started to hear all the animals around him again too. The entire time, the interaction with that person, like the 5-minute walk, he hadn't seen his dogs either. And after he prayed, started hearing all the animals, his dogs finally came out of like these bushes that they had been hiding in. Thankfully, they were fine, and he said that he finally made it to where his friends were waiting for him to eat. He didn't mention anything to his friends when he got there, and they just started eating their dinner. By the time they were done, it was around 11 at night, and he said that they went back to the sugar farms just to finish up some like details that they didn't want to do the next day. Once they finished, they went back to that little camp where they were about to go to sleep, and he says that one of the friends was there with him, so he's like, let me at least tell him what happened because it was really weird. After he tells them the story, they agreed that they were gonna tie up the dogs and just leave the fire going so that it wouldn't go out and they would at least have light around where they were sleeping. Around 3 in the morning, they were woken up by the dogs who were barking very desperately. The grandfather got up and went to see what's wrong with the dogs, and he realized that the friend that he had told what happened to, he was no longer asleep there with him. So he goes to the other spot where his other friend is sleeping. He wakes him up and he lets the dog loose so that hopefully they can run to where the friend who's missing is at. They got the lanterns, and on the way they started to hear screams coming from their friend. They ended up finding him where there was a part of grass that was full of thorns, like anybody could get hurt if they had walked into there. When they finally got to where he was, the friend was screaming and asking them to get him out of there. The only way that they were able to get to where he was by cutting all of those thorns in the grass with a machete. When they inspected the friend's body just to see if he had any thorns like stuck to him or anything like that. He didn't have any thorns nor any scratches all over his body, which you would think he would because he was in the middle of everything. What they did notice though was that he was really like pale, like scared. In the morning, they did end up taking him home because after taking him out of there, he was like in shock. He couldn't even like articulate a full sentence. That friend did remain bedridden for 3 whole days. He did end up getting a fever and it almost seemed like he was sick. After that 3rd day, he was finally able to speak and he requested to speak with the guy who's telling us the story, the grandfather, the one who saw the guy on the horse and told them the story. The grandfather does end up going to his home and visits him, and that's where his friend finally tells him what happened that night. He explains that he had a dream of the man that he had described to him in the same area of that foresty place, and that he in his dream was in that area. The guy came up to him with the horse. The only difference was that he agreed for that guy to give him a ride back to the sugarcane farm. After that, he woke up in the middle of that grassy and thorny patch. Like he was dreaming about this and somehow woke up in the middle of all those thorns. Month by month after that, the guy, it did seem like he was getting better and better, but unfortunately 4 months after being bedridden, he did end up passing away. After that, the grandfather just kept thinking like, what would have happened to me if I had actually taken the ride from that guy? Because what happened to my friend happened in a dream, and this is how everything came to be. So he cannot imagine what would have happened if he had taken that ride in real life. I don't even want to think about what would have happened, but what do you guys think that was? Who was that person on that horse?